Hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Aural Mess, which is just a music podcast about anything and everything music and whatever else I feel like talking about. I'm joined tonight by Mr. Lou LaMonte, who is my first official guest. Thank you, Lou. If you want to introduce yourself, say a few words.
It's an honor and privilege to be here. I am a man from the internet with some common interests, and I appreciate you taking the gamble. I don't know if you made an assessment on me or if you're just taking your chances, but thank you either way.
I'm just taking my chances, and I'm sure so are you. We'll see. We'll see what happens, man. I think we connected on Instagram a while back, and Twitter too. But I started out just maybe a year or so ago making really stupid, or so I thought, Steely Dan memes because somebody had to do more of them, right? I mean, you have some of those classic accounts on Twitter and Instagram, people that were doing it, but they just weren't putting a lot out. It was like few and far between, and they were doing other content. So I was just like full of ideas for, all different sort of templates and things and memes. So I started posting everything on Twitter, and I got such a good response that I was like, let me just create a stupid meme account on Instagram and see what happens over there because, there's a whole Steely Dan community there as well. So I think you're one of my first followers.
Really? Oh, well, it's an honor. I thought it was funny when I ran into you because I don't use Twitter that often outside of for work. I thought it was also pretty funny that happened to find you on Twitter because, again, if I don't use Twitter very often, one of the very few things that the algorithm is going to be programmed to for me, is probably going to be Steely Dan. So I guess it's no surprise that I found your content, but I had no idea it was you until we had that one interaction, which, you know. So I would say small world, but since all 30 of us know each other, um, Steely Dan community in our age group is not too big.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think I'm a little bit older than the average Steely Dan meme person online, so it's kind of funny because I'm like, really enjoying the sort of Danaissance, the rebirth of Steely Dan and it being in everybody's consciousness.
It's great. Some of the Steely Dan chats that I'm in, like some of the kids are like 17, 18 years old making banger Steely Dan memes. I'm like, this is cool. Like, it gives me hope.
Yeah, me too. Hope for the future. The kids are going to be okay. So I guess my question for you, since we're on Steely Dan already, we can sort of go off on that tangent. How did you get into them? Like, what was your first experience or your first memory of hearing Steely Dan, and how big of a fan are you?
Um, yeah, that's actually, I got into them unlike a lot of the other music I was exposed to in my formative years. I actually kind of delved into them on a deeper level on my own. As a kid, I used to burn a lot of CDs and then like put them in my Walkman. So like there are certain songs that to this day I hear, and I used to use the fading, like the blending thing. So the last 3 seconds of one song, it blends into the first of another. So like to this day, I'll hear like Brandy by, what is it, Spiral Staircase or whatever it is, and I'll be expecting to hear the James Bond theme because like that's what my weird 12-year-old brain like put together on, because I had just found both at the same time, and I'm like, oh boy. One of those CDs had like Dirty Work on it, and I remember my dad showing me Do It Again. You hear Reeling in the Years just on FM radio anywhere you go. But those were the only three songs I really knew by them for a long time. And then, believe it or not, I actually got very into Kanye West's Graduation album in 2007. And, like, that's a very good album from start to finish. And I kept listening to Champion. And my mom, I was in the car with my mom, and I was like, whose voice is this? Because I can tell he's sampling something. And she listened. It's, like, very clearly Donald Fagen's voice. But if the only, three songs that you know, and one of them that is Dirty Work, like, I didn't really know what Donald's voice sounded like. She got it right away and was like, oh, that's Steely Dan. So I was like, oh, well, this sounds like a cool metal. It was just a piece of Kid Charlemagne. And then I went and found Kid Charlemagne, and I found all this other stuff. And, I guess I started with the first couple albums and a song or two from like whatever else, and then just delved deeper and started going to see them every year. I've probably seen them like a dozen times or something like that at this point. And I don't know. It just spiraled out of control real quick. It got to a point where I was listening to them for at least an hour or two on a daily basis for at least 5 years. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like that's like not a like colloquially to get the point across. Like that's actually what happened. So I don't know. I've been listening to them at this depth and level for like maybe eight, yeah, 7 or 8 years at this point. So not as long as some people, but I have already caught up probably in spending thousands of hours sitting and listening like way more than anybody should.
Yeah. Well, same, and I feel like there's always something new, even on the 8,000th listen of some of these songs. Like I'll just still pick up on something that I didn't really pick up on before, or I'll read something that triggers me to go back and listen to something that I want to dig deeper into, and then I hear it and I'm like, oh wow.
Yep.
It's just it's that unique discography that they have. I think that a lot of artists just don't have that depth. It's crazy.
It's also interesting that each album has like a very different aesthetic from like you could tell which songs are from which albums more or less. If it like maybe 70% of it. But I left a few gems that I knew that I wanted to be able to still discover new stuff later outside of like outtakes. So like I intentionally never listened to the entirety of Pretzel Logic and left like 4 or 5 songs that I never heard. And then like earlier, maybe like 3 4 months ago, I found Monkey in Your Soul, and that's probably one of the 4 or 5 songs that I don't know or haven't listened to hundreds of times. And I was just so excited to find it because it's so good. It's such an amazing song. Immediately, I heard that I is it like the E sharp 7 Ed 9 chord? Like basically the Taxman. Like it's almost the Hendrix chord, but it's
Mhm.
it's very clearly influenced by Taxman. In my opinion, and like the grunginess of the bass also, and the bass line itself. Like I hear a lot of Beatles influence in Monkey in Your Soul, in my personal opinion. But
Yeah, no,
um,
I agree. Totally agree. So you play guitar, and what
uh,
else?
yeah, I started with piano at like age 8, and then taught like I took lessons from some guy from France who like had a couple CDs and was really good classical player, and he used to transcribe music for me. So like I would ask him like, "Hey, I want to learn how to play Bohemian Rhapsody." And he had some computer program like whatever you have in the year 2000 and transcribed this stuff and would bring it back and would like actually teach me so I wouldn't have to learn like Mary Had a Little Lamb, which really helps with the enthusiasm of learning because when you're learning something and you really don't understand a lot about the methodology of how to play it or even just the chords or notes themselves, like one of the things that helps me push through is imagining how much fun it will be to play the finished product because the only thing better than listening to your favorite music is playing it. It's a lot of fun. So I keep thinking about that when I'm learning if I'm having a hard time. So I don't know. Him transcribing stuff really helped a lot. Anyway, then I picked up guitar when I was 12 and kind of taught myself that and probably have played more of that in the past few years than piano. I also had a teacher, this woman from Ukraine who was my middle school music teacher, um, taught us how to sing. And she assembled some of her favorite kids from the middle school. And by the time we got into high school, like created this vocal ensemble and actually got us somehow into Carnegie Hall. And we sang at Carnegie Hall as like a 6 piece, which was pretty cool. It was nothing that I would want to listen to like in the car, but it was still a fun experience. So that's the gist. I guess I also play like, harmonica and bass and whatever like I can get my hands on, but there's some stuff that you can't figure out. And that's like I'm don't have a lot of hours spent on those things. I'm just like proficient, but I want to know how to play sax and violin, but never took the time to figure it out.
Yeah, I used to play sax, but I stopped in after junior high. It was just like guitar became my thing, and was into that for years. And then I just sort of stopped for a long time. Life got in the way.
Yes,
Wife, kid, mortgage, the whole 9 yards. And a couple
as it
years ago,
does.
I dug out my. You can't see I'm pointing to nothing, but dug out my guitars and I bought myself a bass because I had played bass on and off over the years too. And I'm just still struggling to make the time to take them off the wall and play. I mean, every couple weeks or so I'll do something, but it's fun. I'm not even going to attempt trying to play like any Steely Dan stuff. I mean, maybe some of the easier solos I'll tackle at some point, but
You could do it. I mean, I first of all, I identify with like not having the time. Things get carried, I get carried away with life real quick. but returning to it always feels really great. But yeah, I honestly I didn't think that I could play Steely Dan songs, and then I started to learn them, and some of them are simpler than others. I would start, if you want. Green Earrings is a lot of fun to play, and it's actually not that difficult. I surprisingly, I would recommend giving that one a shot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if I can cop that pinch harmonic going into the bridge.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the solo, by the way. That I have not figured out. Do not
Yeah.
let me fool you. That's not something I'll ever know how to do.
Denny
Uh,
Diaz, man. Like, I didn't even know that was him, until a couple of years ago. I guess I started digging into like who was playing what on what songs and stuff, and it's just unreal.
he did another one on, I think, Katie Lie also, right?
Oh, Your Gold Teeth too.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's one of my favorite solos ever
It's
recorded.
crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy. How does he do what he does? Nobody knows.
just natural talent.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
so, what other music are you into besides the Dan? I mean, we can talk about that for an hour, I'm sure, but I'm trying not to make this a Steely Dan podcast.
Good luck. Yeah, we're starting out strong. I got the
Despite the shirt.
SDU hat on from Gordon at Double Wonderful.
And
Um,
I got the shirt.
yep, yeah. The neighbors are. That's all it's good for, just drowning out domestic arguments. Let's see. I made a playlist today, or yesterday rather, for a couple of friends that I play music with. Usually improv, but sometimes like we all bring a riff either that we made up or somebody else, and sometimes the other guys are not familiar with what it is. We build upon it. So I put a few on here that I wanted to learn with them. Bopcorn by Kung Fu, which is a strange song. Ferris Gallery by Ala Las. Big Night In by this guy Troy Roberts that I happened to see at a jazz club in Miami and became a big fan. I made it a collaborative playlist, at which point my friend Jesse satirically added I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. I don't really appreciate that, but classic in its own right, I suppose. Anyway, Just Kiss My Baby by the Meters, 1 and 7 by
Oh,
Soul Live. 1 and 7 by Soul Live too? They're,
I know of Soul Live, and I think the only tune I know by them is is it them backing? Is Dave Matthews in that band, or did he just do the Ani DeFranco cover with them?
I'm out of my depth. I have no clue.
Oh, yeah. So, "Joyful Girl" by Ani DeFranco, great song. Oh, you should get into her. She's fabulous. But it's basically Soul Live covering that song with horns and just like this kick-ass bass part, and it's Dave Matthews singing, and I'm guessing he's playing guitar on it too. I didn't know if he was part of that group from time to time or if he was just on that one track, but
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think he's on the one track, but that's pretty cool. I like that. I'd like to hear that. Thanks for the heads up.
and I love the Meter song, man. That's one of my favorites.
That's such a good song. I think that I like it better than Sissy Strut. Sissy
Yeah.
Strut is just like such a classic riff, but if I want to listen to the Meters, it's probably going to be Just Kiss My Baby.
If you look up "pocket" in the dictionary, there's a
That's
picture of the Meters playing "Just Kiss My Baby," right?
definition, textbook definition. Um, I got Minor Swingin' here by Django Reinhardt. Old, 1930s gypsy jazz.
Yeah.
Flashlight by Parliament.
Yes.
Green Eyed Lady by Sugarloaf,
Love it.
which brought me to Green Earrings by Steely Dan. Ghetto Life by Rick James. And a lot of these are like riff based songs that have a strange time signature. That was like the theme here, at least in my weird brain. And then finally, this is a song that I've been listening to on repeat for at least 2 days. Pinball Number Count by the Pointer Sisters from Sesame Street.
1, 2, 3,
I,
4, 5,
I
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
11, 12.
My
I
lord.
can't stop. Now I found a cover of it that's even better, or like at least mastered better and recorded better. And I've been listening to that version. And I definitely want to learn how to play that because that's just such a cool little riff that's like an total earworm. But other than that, a lot of Medeski, Martin, and Wood going on. I'm sorry, what's his name? Cyrus Chestnut, Roy Hargrove, Oscar Peterson, Rio Fukui, Art Farmer, Kenny Burrell, Joshua Redman, Elastic Band, Sonny Rollins, Kenny Drew, Grant Green, and I don't know. I've just been listening clearly to a lot of jam jazz mostly.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. What about you?
Let me see. Let me pull up my latest. I have like this just ephemeral playlist that I just keep for, what I drive into New York a couple days a week for work, so I always want something different to listen to, and invariably on the way home it's always Steely Dan, like on
Of course.
shuffle. But let's see what's on this. I have a couple tracks. I'm a big REM fan.
Yeah.
And I never got into the New Adventures in Hi-Fi album. That was sort of the end of them for me. I think it was the first album without Bill Berry, or maybe it was the last one with him. I forget, but it never really hit me. And then for some reason, I just popped it on. I think I read an article about it or something, like it had an anniversary. And the song "Bittersweet Me" is just fantastic. So that's on my playlist. "Dead of Winter" by the Eels, because I was just reading again about how when Walter Becker died, Donald Fagen put up, I guess, a snippet of the lyrics from that song as sort of part of his tribute to Walter. So I was like, I don't think I know that tune, so I went and dug it up, put it on the playlist.
Good call.
"Beginnings" by Chicago.
Okay. Easy. 100%.
Let's see, "Excursions" by Tribe Called Quest.
Awesome.
"Things We Do for Love" by 10cc. Total bubblegum bullshit pop from the 70s, but it's catchy.
Yeah, but still good. I heard that yesterday at I don't remember where I was, somewhere in public, but heard it yesterday. Yeah, probably, right?
Supermarket.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
"Stormy Monday," the Fillmore East version from the Allmans.
Cool.
Yeah, that's just one of my favorite blues jams ever.
It's great.
Let's see, "Enjoy the Silence" by Depeche Mode. "Don't Fear the Reaper" by Blue Oyster Cult. Gotta have that cowbell.
Oh, for sure. I saw them for free one time in
really?
like in Copeg over here, because I think they're from Long Island, so they played like a free show, and all the dads between age 45 and 70 brought cowbells. Like then they didn't know each other either. They were just like different people with different crowds of, like, they all came alone. And as soon as not Godzilla, as Don't Fear the Reaper came on, they were all standing up doing this and like moving their hips and shit. I was just like, this is very Long Island. Let me just.
And I bet the band's like, ugh.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, they're probably like, yeah, we get it. Dance, monkey, dance. Do the thing. I know. Yeah, of course. I felt pain, secondhand pain from it. To be honest,
I can't even imagine. They just smile and roll with it. And they're like, well, I'm just glad we're here. I think some bands just have that, like, I don't care. Dance Monkey. I'll play the music. I'll play the hits. I don't give a shit. I'm getting paid. So I think it goes both ways. "Fly Like an Eagle," Steve Miller Band, and the reason why, that's an evergreen song for me. But I was reading how. There's this guy on TikTok, and he basically does breakdowns of songs. So, like, kind of like a Rick Beato kind of thing, but
it's not Charles Bennett, is it?
No, I can't think of his name. I could probably find him, but he's a recording engineer, and he'll just do like a 1 to 2 minute video and just give you like a quick overview of, like, okay, check this out. This is why this is such a great recording, and this is how this track was recorded, and this is what it sounds like, soloed, and that sort of stuff. And he did just the rhythm section for "Fly Like an Eagle," and it not that you can't hear it with the rest of the song around it, but it just swings like on its own. It's weird. So I just was like, all right, I gotta listen to that song a few times. So I did.
Yeah, you don't notice when it's layered and everything, and then it becomes more obvious when it's isolated.
Yeah, like "Green Earrings." That's the thing. It's "Green Earrings" is like the funkiest track I think they ever recorded, Steely Dan. But if you go on YouTube, there's a couple different versions of, like, alternate takes that were just rehearsals with no vocals and no leads, and somebody did like a 7-minute remix of just the rhythm section.
I would love to hear that.
Maybe I'll post it in the show notes. It's crazy, or I'll just text it to you after too.
Yeah.
It's awesome. "Super Rich Kids" by Frank Ocean, one of my all-time favorite songs.
He's great.
He's awesome. New one to me, "Been to Canaan" by Carole King. Like, I know all the Carole King, all-time hits, but I'd never heard that song before, and I forget where I stumbled across it, but I was like, oh, I'm digging this, so I threw it on my playlist. And Buffalo Tom. I'm a huge Buffalo Tom fan. I don't know if you're familiar.
No, you're gonna have to enlighten me.
Yeah, they're a trio out of Boston. They started in the early '80s, and they kind of came up through the late '80s alternative rock era,
Mhm.
and sort of lasted pretty much through the beginning of grunge, and then they kind of fell off the radar. But great bands, and they're still making music. So they actually just put out a new single, and their album's supposed to come out sometime, I think in the spring. So I'm really excited about that.
Cool.
Yeah,
Sweet. Well, I'll check that out. Thank you.
sure, absolutely. So what else? Memes. I
Oh,
think we should talk about memes.
before we do that, I wanted to
Yeah,
make a recommendation. There's this
sure.
band called the Silver Seas, and I think they're probably their biggest claim to fame was I think Catch Your Own Train, which appeared in Breaking Bad. But they made an album called Chateau Revenge in like 2011 or 12, and it for some reason never blew up. But there's a couple songs on there that like totally deserve to be on the radio, and I would be surprised if anybody disliked them. They're like that kind of songs. I'm gonna send them over to you. One of them is called um What's the Drawback, and the other's called Best Things in Life. And they're just two absolute bops that I still to this day absolutely amazed that there's only like 10 or 12,000 plays on YouTube. And I think they took it off of streaming. They probably just like weren't getting enough streams on it where they didn't want to pay to keep it up anymore. But when you get a chance, look those two up. There, I
Yeah.
have a feeling you'll like them very much.
Oh, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Memes.
Memes. Yeah.
It's a
So
lot less funny to
you've
say
got
out
some
loud.
it is, but you've got some experience in the shit posting arena, right? So
A little bit, yeah.
I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
talk about it. It's fine. It's fine if you don't.
No, I'll do it. I guess, I'm 30 and I've probably been on the internet for at least 20 of those years, 22 probably. So I'm like, I did have a childhood that was not like super formative with the internet and like phones and stuff, but also found stuff way too early. Like I found the F Her Gently Tenacious D music video, which is I think illustrated by John Crickfalusi for Ren and Stimpy, who was a sick and is to this day a pretty sick guy. So you can imagine that the things in that I was like not really fit for an 8-year-old, but um, I stuck with it. I didn't get discouraged. I kept going, and I became a fully shaped man of the internet. Um, but I pretty much watched memes um, go from like their conception around like 4chan ish, and then watch them like get passed to Reddit, and then watch them get passed from there to Facebook, and then just spread to everywhere, and then like have people figure out how to make them. And I've just kind of watched the way that they evolved over time, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think that it's a miracle that they ever ended up as the deep levels of satire that are in memes today ever ended up being mainstream. In 2011, when they reached Facebook and there were like a lot of wine moms making like Minions memes, I'm not shitting on them or their existence, and I don't mean to sound like an elitist, but it was hard to watch it get watered down to that extent, and I'm pleased that to this day, they're as satirical as they are to the point where like you might not have any idea what the hell the joke is. um, but that stuff, I guess, turned out to be a job for me. um, I would never think that, spending all that time looking at the dumbest shit you've ever seen on the internet would be training for anything. But I made friends with a bunch of meme page admins from Instagram from like the early days of when that became popular, like 2016, 2017, 18 kind of thing. And one of those guys named Heckoff Supreme ended up getting hired by Slim Jim to help create content for their social media pages. And they were so successful, they grew the page to like 700,000 followers or something. And when they expanded the budget, they hired me, and I came on and continued to shitpost and leave very annoying comments all over the internet that were either witty or insightful or funny or just annoying, and to the point where, like, their reputation spread and it becomes like an attrition game, a funnel. Like, you're getting a certain amount of impressions as the original post. Those people, certain amount of people see you, certain amount of people like it, then a certain much smaller percentage visits the page, and if they like what they see when they get there, they follow you. So I did that until the page grew from like 700,000 followers to like 1.4 million, and then I did it again for Mountain Dew Gaming on Twitter. Mostly I handled, but um, you know, I was grateful for the opportunity to make culturally authentic content that was like stupid enough and not too watered down by brands. I did this constant, battle with not battle, like we had a very nice relationship with their legal department and their brand managers or whatever. But I wish I could show you some of the stuff that got turned down because they let me do quite a bit. So as you can imagine, the stuff that they turned down was probably the funniest stuff. I will share it with you. If there's a way to maybe link a copy of it in the footnotes of the episode, I'll upload it to Google Drive or something, and you can lay your eyes upon the holy meat sock, which you can figure out what that is later.
That's amazing. That's really impressive. It's basically doubling their following.
Well,
Yeah.
they passed a torch to me. I just knew how to carry it.
Right.
But yeah, what they did was particularly impressive. But yeah, definitely never thought that I would leave. I have a finance degree. I never thought that I would leave banking to I mean, banking to do marketing maybe, but when you look at it under that specific lens, it's like, wow, I walked away from banking to do very stupid internet pictures, and I haven't regretted it a single day since.
I don't blame you. That's my dream, to get paid to make memes, man. Like, how sweet of a gig would that be? Without all the corporate pressure and the lawyers and the marketing people getting
Yeah,
yeah.
that's most of it. To be honest with you, it's like it's a lot of I know I make it sound like fun, but like a lot of it is no different from any other work. It's work. It's a lot of strategy, a lot of deck building, a lot of hand holding, a lot of like selling in ideas, and you become more well rounded from all those interpersonal interactions and the politics involved. But the one thing I think about it that keeps me sane is getting to make stupid shit.
That's great.
Yeah.
I just wonder sometimes if I know there are a few people in the Steely Dan universe that see my stuff and have liked it or made comments, and it just blows me away. Like Elliot Randall, I think, followed my account.
Yes.
Lenise Bent, do you know who she is?
I feel like I recognize her name, but no, I don't.
She was one of the assistant engineers that worked on, I think it was Just Asia. She might have been around for Gaucho too. She tells a really funny story, and you got to find it. I can't remember if it was on a podcast or on YouTube, but again, I'll try to remember to link it. She was in the studio when they were recording Home at Last, and famously, Donald wanted to keep recording the words "well the" over and over again until it sounded the way that he wanted to. In like the thousands of times where he was like, nope, rewind it, let's do it again. Well, I don't like that one. The well didn't sound like, you get the idea. So for like hours upon days, apparently they were trying to nail that well the part. And she said, I was about to pull my hair out. She's like, went to my boss and I just said, I went off this job. I can't do it anymore. If I hear well the one more time, I'm going to lose it. So anyway, she seems like she's really cool, and she followed my meme page, and she's actually liked a few things that I posted. So that to me is like, it just makes me really happy.
It's super exciting, and it's nice to see. You know what it is too? I think that there's so many people in the cinematic Danverse because of how many people that they've had in and out of the studio and in and on tour. That like. There are a lot of them floating around, and some of them are very personable and cool and want to connect. And like Elliot Randall also, I don't know, I think I must have like collaboratively posted a cover or something with Dealing Stan, the other main page, and Elliot ended up following me too, and I was like, oh wow, like I'm sure for him he's just like very flat. Greg Rowley like also is very like if you talk to him, he's just like he'll answer you 5 times in a row on the same thread
Oh wow.
until you stop. Like he's like I really appreciate my fans, you know. Um, it's cool. But I think I got to talk to Latanya Hall once. She's in the Danettes right now. Um, because somebody like made it somebody was trying to impersonate her, so I just like gave her a heads up, and she was like thanks, you know. um, but I think probably the coolest one is I actually met Michael Leonhard a couple times.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, the first time that I spoke to him, I guess you know how you're not supposed to record Steely Dan shows. Um, Judd Apatow, the director, I guess must have, and of course, anytime somebody posts about Steely Dan, we hear about it, right? So like this happened to be on one of the pages that I follow. They like reposted Judd Apatow's picture of him at a Steely Dan concert, and the caption was like, I know that you're not supposed to record Steely Dan, but like this is the most memorable moment of one of the most memorable moments of my life. Sue me, whatever. So, the algorithm also shows you the comments of people that you follow. Like it prioritizes it toward the top. So Michael's comment is at the top with like no interaction. It's just because I follow him, and it says like, "Hey Judd, like we forgive you. Was this the North Carolina show?" You know, and I replied to him and I said, "This is Judd's secretary." Like, yes, this was the North Carolina show, and thank you so much for a wonderful show or whatever. And then I went to just like do whatever, and I came back to my phone 20 minutes later, and I have DMs from Michael. he's like, hey, like, send me an address to send some merch to you and Judd. And like, I guess he didn't know about the unsend button because I messaged him like, when I got back to my phone, and I was like, hey, Mike, like, I'm actually just a super fan. I am totally not Judd's secretary that he brought to his Steely Dan concert. And he was like, yeah, I figured that out pretty quickly. And I felt bad. But later, like 6 months later, um, I ran into him outside of Central Park. I had just went and saw 3 shows, the last 3 shows of their most recent tour before they were was it the Absolutely Normal tour, or the one after that? It was the one after that before they started opening for Eagles.
Yeah.
I saw the last 3 of that with Gordon from Double Wonderful, and the next day after the last show, I ran into him on 72nd Street outside of Central Park and was just like just straight, I just straight like soy jack pointed at him like, like he's like because no one he probably doesn't get stopped on the street all the time. I think he's a legend, but like he's not like his face is all over magazines. So he stops, and I think he assumed that I knew that like he knew me, and he's like trying to place me, and I was like, I'm just a super fan of the tour. I know who you are. And he chatted with me for like 30 seconds. I was like, I also have a confession. And he's like, what's that? And I was like, I'm Judd Apatow's secretary. And he was like, oh, get the fuck out of here. He's like, get out of here. He's like, oh, he wasn't like actually pissed, like, but like chummily was like, oh, pish, and then left. And then, okay, now fast forward like another 9 months, and I went and saw his brass band at Lunatico in Brooklyn. And after the show, I went up to him and I told him like, I want to buy a couple of your 45s. And he was like looking at me. And by the way, for some reason, is it A Man Ain't Supposed to Cry or Phantom Raiders? One of the songs that they play before when they open concerts or in between was playing on the radio, and I was like, "Did you do this?" And he was like, "No, I didn't do this. The house did this." He's like, "Isn't that weird though?" I'm like, "When do you ever hear that?" It just happened to be on. But he's like staring at me, and he's like, "What's your name?" And I was like, Louis, and he's like, I thought you were Louis. He was like, I ran into you in Central Park, like, and I was like, how the fuck do you remember that? And my name, I guess the Judd Apatow thing stuck with him. So he signed my shit, and I told him, I'll go get cash if you want cash, or I could Venmo you. And he's like, I'll let you Venmo me. So he's flipping through looking for his username, and by the way, once I found it, I saw that he like had not Venmoed anybody in 2 years. So I was like, it was very nice of you to let me send you something that you probably don't use. But he couldn't find his username for like 5 minutes. I'm not even exaggerating, like 5 whole minutes that we're standing there. And he's like scrolling through his notes looking for it. Do you know on Donald Fagen's Sunken Condos record that Michael Linhart produced? He also played drums, I think, on every track under the pseudonym Earl Cook Jr.
Yeah.
And I think he assumes that nobody knows that. So he's searching for his username, and I was like, you having a hard time there? And he's like, yeah, I'm just looking for the name. I was like, if I search Earl Cook Jr., it'll come up, right? And he was like, he like did the full like double, triple take. He's like, what the fuck did you just say? And I was like, if I search Earl Cook Jr., it'll come up and I pay you. And he's like, how the fuck do you know that?
They don't realize that like the fan base, man, like we know all this trivia.
I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, I'm autistic, bro. What do you think? Like, I have he's a very good sport. I have a long history of busting chops with him, and he's taken it very well, and still sometimes to this day, if he ever replies to me in his comments, refers to me as Judd Apatow's secretary.
It's hilarious.
Pretty ridiculous.
I love it. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like, not being recognized, and I feel like, the average music fan, even the average Steely Dan fan wouldn't know who the hell he was if they bumped into him on the street. And, Fagen and Becker said they never got recognized because, before the internet, right? I mean,
right.
Nobody knew who the hell they were, and he was just walking around Manhattan doing this thing anonymous, and, not many people.
Pretty good deal.
He was, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't see him in a magazine, you probably didn't see him. There's that clip from Walter where he's like, you know what I like? When people come up to me and they say,
You're that guy.
You're that guy from Steely Dan, aren't you? And I say, well, yeah, I am. And then they go, no, you're not. No, you're not. That's what I like. And who else can get away with that? Know, after their caliber of like what they've done,
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
Documentary is just
so good.
It's so quotable and it's so memeable. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that.
The Plush TV Jazz Rock Party also has some funny moments too.
Yeah,
like when they're talking about Cousin Dupree, and he's like, "Yeah, it's a traditional country tune. It's like a funk. It's like weird funk jazz shit. It's like just about." Incest it has nothing to do with obviously that's the joke about the traditional country shit, but just they're so tongue-in-cheek.
They have so many it's just dry, and that's what I love. It's my kind of humor, and they have so many inside jokes, I guess, even among them, the two of them, that nobody else even in the band like knew, and they would just crack each other up all the time, which
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's lovely.
It is. Yeah, man.
So what else?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's what kind of guitars you got?
Oh, hey, good question. I was going to ask you about your telly. So
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Go ahead though.
I was just going to say I don't want to take it off the wall cuz it's, long story, but I have a 93 made in Japan. Yeah, I bought it in 93. I'm old. I'm 52.
Well, you don't look it.
Oh, well, thank you. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
I don't feel it, I feel like I'm firmly in my 30s somehow.
That's what I'm picking up, so you're doing it right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, I bought it new, and it's pink paisley, made in Japan, reissue from the 1968 or 69. I forget what the original one was, and I just wanted something different, and back when I was 21 at that point, I was really into Led Zeppelin, really into classic rock and 60s British stuff, and just looking at all the different the Eric Clapton's The Fool guitar, and Jimmy Page had all these cool hand painted guitars and shit. And I was like, I want something different. So I went to Sam Ash, I think in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and walking around looking for something that caught my eye. And I see this thing, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, can I pull off a pink guitar? And I'm like, fuck it, yes I can.
Exactly. That's all it takes to pull anything off is fuck it, yes I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the time I didn't care. So, bought it, got into a band a few years later and played. And besides that, I've got a Guild acoustic. My daughter, who's 17, I bought her guitar a few years ago, and she plays once in a very blue moon, but she's got a Yamaha Dreadnought, and I have a Squier jazz bass.
Dude, that's cool. Oh, yeah. I love playing those things.
And then the guitars I got rid of, which I'm still kicking myself, 20 years later. But, shit happens and you do stupid stuff and then you regret it. But I used to have a Guild. I can't think of the name of it. It was like a thin line electric acoustic. It was like almost like a short scale guitar.
Right.
Real thin body, but you could play it unplugged and it sounded fine. But it cool. Had a neck that felt like an electric, so you could really. It was easy to play. It was a lot of fun. Sold it. Had a Marshall stack at one point with all the effects stuff in a rack, and sold that because when we started gigging with the band I was in, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this every night.
Yeah, it's too much. Do you want your Marshall stack or your neck not thrown out?
Exactly. So I switched over back in the day to a Line 6, the modeling for the first generation one. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I spent way too much time in my bedroom dialing in different patches to try to sound like, whatever song we were playing. I mean, like, I was always a little bit obsessive with it. So, like, if we were doing, I don't know, Alice in Chains, I would try to get a distortion patch to sound like Alice in Chains. Like, I wanted to sound like what we were doing. Yeah, but, I spent just hours upon hours upon hours I'll never get back. But it was so worth it. And now, I kept since college, I have I think it's like an 87. I got to look and see. I'm pretty sure it's an 87. I have a Mesa Boogie Studio 22 little tube amp.
That's cool.
It's the coolest thing ever.
That's cool. You gotta show that to me.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't know when I got here. I mean, I'm just using an electric amp with like presets that I could like edit. I guess it's not. It's certainly not kosher, but I just do it because it's easier. I do have pedals and stuff, but I never got too technical with like gear, to be honest with you. I know it's a hole that I would probably spend a lot of time and money in, that I've been meaning to get around to doing, but haven't yet, which my wallet's probably pretty happy about. But it's a Fender Mustang GT 100-watt amp. Nice. So, that's keeps me entertained enough and it gets loud enough. So I'm just like, that's fine for now. I have a really cool Sky brand. I don't know what Sky is, but it's this acoustic bass. It's like very smooth to play. It's like just looks like an acoustic guitar, but it's a bass. And then my uncle, who I guess is on some sort of political kick, is to get rid of all of his Chinese gear, sent me, which fine by me, a Chinese Telecaster, which I have here. Actually, I'll hold it. Bang bang. Oh, there you go, right on the ceiling. it was the peg. Don't worry. But
wow,
pretty cool setup there. It's like a bridge. It looks it's but which I hope the string doesn't move if I hit it too hard. But a humbucker and what is that? I don't know. P90.
Yeah, that's a single coil.
Single coil. Don't even know what I'm talking about. I just play the thing. And then, I have like another one. That's a Squier, and I have another Squier Strat. And, but there's two that actually, if you don't mind, I'll grab them and I'll show them to you. It's actually pretty cool. Yeah. Upstairs, I have a 12-string 1976 Ovation. Wow. And nylon string Cordoba, which, I learned like when I was like 12, I learned like classical gas by Mason Williams. Is that his name? Whatever it is. And the Unforgiven by Metallica was just like,
Of course.
obviously, you know. But yeah, hang on one second. I'll show you these other two.
Yeah, sure, cool.
I have returned. So, yeah, lots of zippers and clanking. So this one, I wanted a guitar that kind of sounded, that was like more fitting for like a lead, for like if I want to learn, riffs or solos or whatever. So this is a Fender 66. So it's like a 1960 jazz bass body, but it's a 6-string. So yeah, it's got a C neck and the Strat headstock. But although it looks like a Strat, it's actually a jazz bass, but you could see the angle on it.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure, and the knobs
and the plate and everything. But it's got the 2 lipstick boys and the humbucker, and it sounds pretty cool. I think it has 5 settings. But I like that the knob is also nowhere near where I would strum, because a lot of times I strum on the Stratocaster and change the knob because I'm not a professional, so this is like nice and out of the way. But yeah, it's a pretty neat design. I was pretty excited to get my hands on this.
I've never seen one of those. That's cool.
I think it's from a product line called Alternate Reality. That's what I think it's called, Alternate Reality. So that's the premise, is like they took the techs there, took all their favorite features from multiple different guitars and just put it into one kind of. And
like
there were a few of them. The one I wanted actually was natural body. Like it was like that wood, which looked really cool, but unfortunately the guy that was trying to sell it was on Mercury, which is like, in my experience, a notoriously unscrupulous site. Like they don't do a great job regulating like fraud and scamming or like dishonest tactics on there. So yeah, so this guy, not to talk about bad about it, but the few times I interacted with sellers on there, like it was just like something wasn't quite right. And this guy was trying to sell it for like full price. After like using it for years or whatever, but I don't know. I ended up paying full like the listing price for this next one, which is the I guess that's another Strat headstock, but a different color wood. But yeah, the Telecaster Troublemaker Deluxe. So this, look, it's
That's pretty.
Yeah, ice metallic blue or whatever it's called. 3-way switch, 2 humbuckers. These are actually, the guy that sold it to me put these on there. They're from Creamery in the UK. And 4 knobs and this this pretty cool trim and this background wood. This is probably like, this thing never goes out of tune. Like you could pick it up after like a year with like oxidized strings and like it's still intonated and just is still in tune. I don't know how, but I love this thing, and I think people on the internet. The other one was the Alternate Reality. This is Parallel Universe.
Oh, okay.
So people on the internet joke, and they call this the Fender Les Paul, as you could see, obviously.
Right. Yep.
So if you this is like, instead of a Les Paul, because I have scoliosis and I can't carry a 20-pound guitar for 2 hours, I have this one at 8 pounds. And it's not really the same thing, but I have a lot of fun on it.
Yeah, sounds good too.
Yeah, the premise there, I guess, is the other one's Alternate Reality. This is Parallel Universe. So in a parallel universe where Fender invented the Les Paul, this might be what it looks like, kind of idea, I guess.
Right.
But
nice.
yeah, that's it. Lots of fun. And then my piano.
Now I gotta show you the.
You gotta show me. Show me.
Show you. Yeah,
yes, you do. See, this is what I was looking for.
Here's my baby.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah.
There it is.
It's got the maple neck, standard tele headstock. It looks like a ding on there, but it's just the light reflecting. There's no ding on the headstock. I have a couple on the body from just playing out, but I also
that is so cool.
I ripped out the old single coil stock pickup and threw in a DiMarzio stacked humbucker because some of the stuff we were playing it was the mid '90s. We were doing like alternative and grunge. And, the telly pickup just didn't do it.
Right.
I
I love telly pickups, but it's not for that.
Yeah, so that made it a little more versatile. The guy that I took it, the guitar shop I took it to, the guy that was working on it was like this older dude who was like a jazz guy, and he was like, "Yeah, damn kids and your freaking humbuckers," It's like, why would you ruin such a nice guitar and put this freaking pickup in it? You should just play it stock. It's funny. He was busting my chops. But then, for a brief time, I bought used. I forgot where I got it. Probably the same music shop. I used to go there all the time. I got a Mexican Strat, and it was cherry red with a maple neck, and it was a Strat Special. So it was 2 single coils and a humbucker, but it was a stock Fender humbucker, and it wasn't great, so I ripped that out. There was Seymour Duncan stacked humbucker in that thing, and it had a 5-way switch and a coil tap, so I could take the humbucker off, which I never did, of course. And that thing was just awesome. And then it was a casualty of getting married and combining stuff into a small apartment. She was like, "You don't need 2 guitars." And I'm like, "But I do."
Yeah, I know.
Like, yeah, well, you don't.
Got gas, man.
Yeah.
That's what I was struggling with for a minute there. I'm like, I don't want to catch a bad case of guitar acquisition syndrome. I came real close. I got those 2 that I just showed you last, within 9 months of each other. They're totally unnecessary. But yeah, that's just how it happens. That Paisley is sick, dude. I've never seen a guitar with Paisley on the front like that before.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny because the weirdest people actually have the same guitar. Melissa Etheridge had it, and I was like, "Ooh, I know how I feel about that." Brad Paisley, of course, has a Paisley telly. I think he has a pink one. I forgot who else. Somebody recently that I saw playing one, and I was like, "Oh wow, they have my guitar." Forgot who it was, but yeah.
Well, do you remember how it made you feel when you found out? That'll help us narrow it down.
I think I was okay with it. I think I've gotten past the whole, I don't care. I've had this thing, I've known it longer than my wife, you know what I mean, at this point, so...
It's got a special place in your heart that can't be...
Exactly, yeah.
Can't be moved.
And I try to keep it, maintained. Like I said, I don't play it that frequently, but, I just changed the strings a few months ago and gave it a good once over, and at some point I got to take it into the shop because I think the neck needs a little bit of adjustment, and I don't want to do it myself. I'm always afraid to mess with the truss rod, especially on such an old guitar. I'm afraid I'm going to crack something or tweak something the wrong way,
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's better to just take it to somebody that's got a good reputation with that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Always.
All right, well, show and tell's over. We're just about at an hour. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Otherwise, I feel like we covered a lot of good ground, man.
I think we did. I don't know if there's anything else left.
Well, I'm sure we could go on for hours, but
probably.
Yeah. We'll have to do another episode at some point, maybe.
Down the line, anytime.
Right, well, Lou, thanks again. This has been great. I've really appreciated having you on, and it was a pleasure talking to you. And stay on for a minute after I stop recording, if you don't mind, because there's some housekeeping.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been nothing short of an honor and a pleasure, and it's a great way to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks
I'm
again.
hoping to post this, in the next few days or so. I'm trying to get into a groove with recording and editing and publishing and all that. So most likely, I have all the audio only channel set up. So I have it publishing where it's going to go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the usual places. Right. But I really think since I'm recording with video, I think I'm going to do the video version on YouTube and just have a YouTube channel with all the same episodes. That way, if somebody wants to see our beautiful faces, they can,
Very sensible. I often do the same thing. I listen to a lot of podcasts, then every now and then I want to listen while I'm just walking around, and sometimes I'll just put it on the TV instead. So, yeah, definitely cool. What do you use? Use Buzzsprout or for uploading to the streaming services?
Acast for now. It was
cool.
The one that was pretty much free and had a lot of good features.
Cool. Good to know.
As the show progresses, if this thing actually takes off, and then it's getting anybody watching it besides my mom,
and mine. That's 2 viewers.
That's 2. All right, that's two built in.
That's 100% increase.
There you go. Metrics, baby. We'll see what happens, and maybe I'll move over to something a little more fancy. But for now, I think this is going to be fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun, man. Thanks again.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording and hang on one sec.